on a little bit?
You're good to go.
Okay, so instead of utilizing our wildcards here, folks, we can enhance this query a little bit more by giving the person who's going to run this query, the ability to choose what console they look at. Now, if you remember, if I want to call or get the user to input information, I have to use a specific expression. We're going to delete what we've just written into that criteria, folks. And what we're going to do instead is put some square brackets within that criteria. Square brackets allow the user to input what they want, but we've got to write the question first. So anything between these square brackets is the question we're about to ask that user so they can put in a response. So something as nice as please enter the console. And I'll just expand that out so you can see it up. Would result in, when we run this query, a parameter popping up and going, hey, what's the actual name of the console you want to check? Now, specifically, if I was to type in Xbox 360, if I could spell Xbox, that'd be fantastic. I now provide not an overview, not a static collection, but a user-defined collection of consoles, an account of all of those products. Anytime you want to take a user input, folks, anytime you want to give the person the ability to enter some information, we just utilize that square brackets with the question. That works for strings, so actual written text, numeric values, it'll work for dates, etc. The list goes on. Anytime you want to query that database with a particular parameter value, just utilize the square brackets and that question within to actually demonstrate that. Okay. With that one, folks, that is the second query that we're going to generate together. So what I would like you to do is, again, save that query, please. And for this one, we're going to call it input count. So QRY input count. The beautiful thing about this, folks, is by getting you to do this with me and explaining what it's actually starting to demonstrate in terms of a business question. Ooh. Ashley, just get Tommy to look at your entry there. I think you've managed to, okay, fair enough. Did you just hit enter without entering a parameter? Because that would result in nothing. So yeah, problematic parts of this particular one, folks, is if I was literally to search for the word Xbox, it would return nothing, okay? I have to define the full user term here. So if I make a spelling mistake, if it isn't inside the database, it will return nothing. But that's why we then have forms, yes? So what I'm showing you is how I would construct the query. John last week has then shown you how to construct a form, which you can merge together with these queries to give a better interface than what I'm showing you, okay? I'm showing you literally the internal workings, so to speak. John shows you the nice pretty bit that makes mine look a lot better.
There's an irony in that, isn't there?
A little bit.
That's the way around that we've taught this. Because Aaron usually does all the pretty stuff, and he's very, very talented in that stuff, and I do the boring backbone stuff. But Aaron's absolutely right. What we're going to do after half term is take what Aaron's done here and the concepts we did 2 weeks ago and start to merge them together. Yes? Because then you can build a form that will then feed this input here. And the concepts that Aaron's teaching you here are so, so important. And every query that Aaron is teaching you here, what Aaron has done, he's very kindly gone through each of the mock exams that we've got at our disposal for this unit and gone through each query and said, right, we're going to make sure you guys know how to do each of them. And then there's going to be time, like last week, to practice, to play, to get confident with this. Yes? Trust me, once you get this bit, it starts to all fall into places. Get normalization, get form design, get query design, and everything else is relatively straightforward.
Excellent. Right, John, if you keep the recording going for this one, because we're going to add a little bit more, essentially what Jake has kind of asked for. So what I would like you to do is, now that you've saved your input count, what I don't want to do is then change this one and we lose that ability to go back and review that. So you've currently got 2 queries. I want you to right click your input count. I want you to select copy, and then I want you to right click and paste. I want you to duplicate what we've just created, essentially. The name I would like you to change it to, rather than copy of input count, is input sum, please. And then we can close down input count and open up input sum itself. Come on. So I'm just going to right click input sum and select the design view. So we're bringing it back to that view that we had. John, after this one, if we stop this recording, because then I'm going to do min, average and max. We can have that separate. Okay, so good. Yeah, so create it and then just right click design view, folks, on that query list. Right. Are we already in the other rooms? I don't want to move on. So John's given us thumbs up. Fantastic. Yeah, Rayan's got his arm up in the air. Power. Callum, is your group ready? Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you. So we're going to leave the query down at the bottom the same, folks, and we're going to just add something to this. So what we're going to do is just going to expand that up a little bit so you can see it all again. And what we're going to do is we're going to add quantity to the mix this time. So like you've asked for, Jake, we're going to be looking at how we can then see a sum of the quantity of games. So currently we've got the word quantity. Now, what me and John was talking about earlier is the word quantity in this case, whilst it's a valid output, it does not actually define what we are showing here, okay? So like Jake has put in the chat previously, we're not looking at individual quantities of games here, we're looking at total quantity. And when you construct your queries, you can change the name of the fields up at the top by defining those names yourself. So let's do that first. So we're going to leave quantity in for a second, but I'm going to click in front of quantity and I'm going to type something that makes more sense. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say total stock, a colon, and I'm going to surround quantity in square brackets. Now, trust me, I know that there are some tutorials and people out there that do not put the square brackets around their quantity or their field types. This is just how I've been taught, folks. This has always worked for me. Are you all right?
You magnify it a little bit because it's a bit small.
Yeah, no worries.
You.
So I've stated total stock, colon. That is going to be the new name for the field. I have defined that name myself. It makes more sense. I could do the same with the other ones as well if I chose to, yeah? But I am using the data from the quantity field. Much like the count, though, what I want to do this time is I want to change group by to sum. Sum. What's that? What that is going to do is it's going to look at all of the quantity related to those games that we've just identified. It's going to add them all together. And what we should end up with is a higher number than the count for our title, obviously. Okay. So sum adds all the values together in relation to counts. I've changed the different names so it now makes a little bit more sense with the actual data that we're going to collect. Demagnify, minimize that. And again, I'm just going to put, we'll do Xbox again because it's a bit easier to type. Move that out of the way so you can see it all. What we now have is a query that goes, here is the console. Here are the amount of titles you have on that console currently in your building. And the total stock you have for the Xbox 360 game titles is 5,786. That's counted all of the quantities for you. And now you know, within your business, you almost have 6,000 products that if Mr. Microsoft came knocking on your door and handed a notice to you, you've now got to find those 6,000 games. We've not done Xbox One there, obviously, though. Sorry? It would be. Can you imagine that job? Here's a box cutter, go find. George? Yes. I'm just going to bring back design view and magnify again for you. So with these queries, folks, you can see that all I'm doing is I'm just enhancing what I've already developed. Okay? Sum and count work together fantastically well. But again, business question-wise, just make sure nobody's put anything in chat. Business question-wise, if John was my boss, and I went, oh, John, we've got quite a large surplus of Xbox games. What would you like me to do with it? Because the small businesses, like obviously Game in Mansfield, in Nottingham, for instance, it's quite a small store. They've probably not got enough space for almost 6,000 Xbox games. So count counts all the individual elements, all the individual cells, and provides you the number. Sum looks inside those cells and adds all the values together. Okay. John, do you want to just stop that recording there? And then we can come back to it on the next bit of delivery.